In the zenith of her golden age, Córdoba commanded the world's awe, while her naval armadas etched cold terror upon the Mediterranean with pitch and dragon flame. The Islamic West was not merely guarded by towering peaks, but by a formidable bastion of timber, iron, and ironclad resolve, shielding horizons from unseen imperial eyes. The Andalusian fleet emerged as a phenomenon, blending the maritime genius of Berber navigators with the architectural precision of Arab builders and the Almoravid's unyielding holy steel. Within Almeria's harbors, as the sun descended over tireless shipyards, rhythmic hammers wove wooden ribs and iron sinews into vessels destined to navigate through the eternal history. The silent Mediterranean, witnessing the rise and fall of civilizations, knew the haunting cries of Andalusian galleys carving through midnight waves like swords severing the dawn's light. Neither Seville nor Toledo stood alone against the northern kingdom's hunger for a resilient navy inscribed crimson boundaries upon the tides that no enemy ever dared cross. Inside the silent Andalusian palaces and the Alhambra's intricate shadows, decisive naval councils determined the fate of empires, mapping invasions with the cold calculation of celestial astronomers. While collective memory preserved the names of caliphs and philosophers, it neglected the admirals and sea lords who transformed Andalusia into an impenetrable fortress against the sea. The Forgotten Fleet is the most deserving title for those who crafted miracles and shadows, vanishing when the mission ended without chronicles recording their immense civilizational legacy. Though grand volumes were filled with terrestrial conquests, the truth lay submerged in neglected records, proving Andalusia endured 8 centuries because of its hidden maritime avian wings. Let us now lift the veil of oblivion from this steadfast armada, restoring the honor of its guardians while reciting verses of glory upon their rusted iron. This is no simple chronicle of conquest beginning with steel and ending in truce. It is an epic of survival spanning 800 years of naval guardianship. Any nation lacking a fleet stands naked before the judgment of history, a truth Andalusia grasped instinctively before mastering the logic of iron, wood, and celestial math. Behold, we open the portal to this forgotten horizon, reading a saga never fully told until this hour, the biography of the Andalusian fleet enduring against time. The Strait of Gibraltar, that narrow throat between divergent worlds, was the gateway whose fall meant the total ruin of Andalusia, a truth known by its admirals. Since Tariq ibn Ziyad crossed the constricted passage in 92 Hijri, maintaining this maritime artery became a sacred covenant passed from caliph to caliph through the ages. Northern Christian kingdoms understood that the path to Andalusia's destruction lay across the waves, repeatedly launching armadas to sever the lifeline connecting it to North African shores. The Andalusian fleet stationed within Gibraltar's currents performed a task greater than mere sentry duty, ensuring the flow of warriors, scholars, and merchants, keeping the pulse alive. Leonese, Castilian, and Aragonese crowns shared dreams of naval supremacy to strangle Andalusia, but Córdoba's ships remained the stern response, aborting those ambitions before they ever ripened. 10th century maps of the Mediterranean revealed Andalusia at the epicenter, encircled by maritime supply lines, radiating like a star triumphant over the tyranny of geography and distance. Almeria, the southern jewel often overlooked by modern historians, served as the beating heart of naval power, a massive arsenal terrifying timber markets across the entire basin. Within Almeria shipbuilding docks, timber was transformed by Berber, Arab, and Spanish Muslim craftsmen into massive wooden warriors equipped with shields of pitch and wheels of wind. Iron forged in Córdoba's furnaces, wood harvested from dense Andalusian forests, and ropes woven in Seville's workshops converged to create a naval force beyond the North's darkest. The Strait of Gibraltar was governed with the wisdom of a commander knowing time is everything. 1 hour of negligence could cost Andalusia its very existence. When northern fleets dared approach the strait, they encountered a sight chilling their fervor: Andalusian masts bearing green banners and red palms standing like iron teeth above. Guarding Gibraltar was never merely a military strategy. It was a foundational dogma within the conscience of Andalusian sea lords, inherited like sacred legacies from their noble. Whenever Andalusia faced brutal terrestrial sieges, the sea opened its embrace, delivering reinforcements of men, weapons, grain, and renewed hope from the shores of North African lands. Andalusia was no island, yet it functioned as a thalassocratic state, realizing the sea held the secret of its endurance, granting 8 centuries of flourishing and survival. When the Caliphate fell to al-Rahman III in 300 Hijri, Andalusia groaned under internal schisms and external raids, exhausting its southern maritime borders and defenses. Al-Nasir perceived with the commander's eye what others ignored. Cordoba without a potent fleet was a bride without guardians, in a dark night prowled by hungry Arctic wolves. The Caliph issued decisive commands to construct a new arsenal in Almeria, that coastal city sleeping like a neglected treasure upon the southern shores of the Andalusian Mediterranean. The immense wealth Al-Nasir injected into the naval project reflected deep strategic awareness. Maritime power is no luxury for peacetime, but a vital necessity for his national survival. Experts were gathered from across the Islamic world, navigators from Tunisia, shipbuilders from Egypt, and weapons engineers from the Levant, pouring their science into Almeria's great crucible. Within mere years, Almeria transformed from a dormant coastal town into the largest maritime arsenal in the Western Mediterranean, astounding emissaries from Constantinople and the Venetian merchant doges. Al-Nasir personally monitored the burgeoning fleet's reports, reviewing numbers, correcting maneuvers, and elevating naval commanders to his inner council, treating the sea as his primary administrative royal concern. The new armada built by Al-Nasir was not just floating weaponry, it was an eloquent political message sent by Cordoba to the Fatimids and the northern kingdoms. After completing his massive fleet, Al-Nasir launched daring naval campaigns that shattered the Mediterranean air, redrawing the maps of power with the blood of his restored imperial. Andalusian raids upon the shores of southern France and western Italy were more than looting expeditions. They were coded warnings declaring that Andalusia's sea belonged to them alone. The coasts of French Provence endured the weight of Andalusian incursions for decades, as French kings awoke to sudden landings, reminding them of the southern power's growing reach. In Italy, Andalusian fleets left indelible marks, coastal cities endured raids, fortifications were erected in haste, and cathedral bells tolled warnings of the inverted green sails on horizons. The tactical maritime lesson al-Rahman taught his enemies was clear: whoever seeks to assault Andalusia from the waves must first throw themselves into an unquenchable roaring fire. Thus, during Al-Nasir's reign, Andalusia reached its naval zenith, a peak achieved not by chance but through iron will, planning, treasure, and men believing the sea is life. The Andalusian fleet did not fight as others fought. It possessed a unique doctrine of maritime warfare, blending desert agility with oceanic depth. In one strike none mastered. Andalusian vessels were designed with 3 tiers of strike: the swift Shalandi for reconnaissance, the medium craft for tactical skirmishing, and the great Haraka to shatter enemy formations. The naval hit-and-run tactic mastered by the Andalusians drove adversaries to madness. Small ships harried the enemy's right flank, while massive Haraka ships pierced their heart like arrows. Before every major naval engagement, Andalusian commanders wove intricate threads of intelligence. Networks of merchants, spies, and double agents provided the secrets of the approaching enemy's naval battle. The strait secured by the Andalusian fleet was no mere watery void. It was a complex tactical theater utilizing currents, depths, isles, and reefs as weapons for defense. The maritime fire developed by Andalusians combined Levantine technology with Maghrebi materials, creating a weapon that sowed terror in hearts before the flames even ignited upon the surface. When Leone's armadas attempted to breach the southern coast, they faced an integrated defense, beacon towers upon the shores and ships lying in dark coves awaiting the signal. Andalusian sea lords held grand maritime councils before every major campaign, analyzing enemy strengths and weaknesses to turn the very momentum of the offensive wave against its originator. The coastal strip stretching from Almeria to Portugal served as the first line of defense, lined with fortresses monitoring horizons to signal when foreign sails breached the distance. The Andalusians perfected non-contact naval warfare long before its definition, striking the enemy with distant flames before withdrawing swiftly before the foe could even reorganize for a response. Naval power was not restricted to war. It was a commercial and political presence, ships carrying merchants and scholars, returning with gold, powerful allies, and sacred diplomatic treaties. Seville, located upon the Great Wadi River, became the second pillar of maritime strength after Almeria. Its inland harbors swarmed with river vessels representing the secondary interior defense. The Strait of Gibraltar, the heart of Andalusian strategy, was surrounded by small maritime citadels at both ends, forming a double gate that was impossible to traverse easily. The Andalusian Navy evolved with relentless diligence. Every defeat became a learned lesson, and every victory confirmed a doctrine refusing to stop learning or adapting to the sea. This Andalusian method of maritime war endured for 8 centuries, evolving and reinventing itself, proving that a nation with a rooted naval doctrine cannot be conquered by steel. The Andalusian Naval Command possessed a rare quality seldom found in military leadership: the blend of attackers' audacity, defenders' patience, and diplomats' wisdom within the same critical moment. Arrogance rarely dwelled within the hearts of Andalusian admirals. They knew the Mediterranean was a sea granted to none forever, and perpetual vigilance was the only price for dominion. The Andalusian Navy was a mirror of the civilization it served, diverse in elements, firm in faith, creative in hardship, and realizing peace is built upon true power. Cordoba and its navy were not in perpetual peace. They suffered moments of sharp fracture, like the Genoese siege of Almeria, yet they never remained broken for long. The fleet's ability to rise from defeat surpassed contemporary navies. Their doctrine was deeper than a single vessel and harder than the last iron nail forged in their shipyards. When the Almoravid state arrived from Morocco to bolster Andalusia in the 11th century, they brought fresh blood for the maritime veins, re-energizing the entire coastal defense system. The Almoravids and Almohads understood the Andalusian naval secret. Andalusia and North Africa are one body that must breathe through the sea regularly or perish in lonely isolation. Maritime supply lines across Gibraltar were the vital artery pumping life into Andalusia's veins: men, weapons, provisions, and morale that could never be purchased from any terrestrial markets. While crusades distracted the East, Aragonese fleets attempted to sever the maritime connection between Andalusia and Morocco, but the Andalusian Navy stood ready to strike from the deep abyss. The naval wars against Aragon in the 13th century were filled with military drama. Battles near Cartagena and Valencia tore the Mediterranean with fire and the cries of men. However, greater historical forces worked in the shadows. The sequential fall of Andalusian inland strongholds gradually constricted the naval bases along the coast, isolating the fleet from support. With every terrestrial base lost, a corresponding maritime port vanished, a harbor closed, an arsenal burned, or a supply point severed from the grand network of the fleet. Despite the gradual retreat, Granada in its final days maintained a light maritime network ensuring connection to Morocco, the last heartbeat in the core of a dying Andalusia. Had Boabdil, the last king of Granada, given naval affairs half the attention he gave internal strife, the history of Andalusia might have followed a vastly different path. The fall of Granada in 1492 was not the fall of a city alone, but the final curtain upon 8 centuries of Islamic naval presence in the West. The funnel ships departing Andalusian shores laden with fleeing Muslims carried a heart-wrenching symbolism. A fleet that guarded this coast for 8 centuries became the vessel of exile. Yet, this departing fleet carried more than defeat. It carried seeds that would produce the generation of Andalusian corsairs in Morocco, inheriting the doctrine and reviving the spirit. When Andalusia fell on land, its maritime doctrine migrated to Moroccan and Algerian shores, establishing schools of navigation and organized piracy centers, whose echoes resonated through the centuries. Expelled Moriscos reaching the southern Mediterranean shores did not surrender to weeping. Some converted pain into maritime gunpowder, launching ships to burn Spanish vessels for vengeance and honor. The rulers of Salé, Tetuan, and Rabat inherited the Andalusian maritime flame, reigniting it across the western Mediterranean to remind Spain that the sea is a memory never erased. Sayyida al-Hara, the Andalusian governor of Tetoan, was Barbarossa's ally and a pirate queen, proof that the spirit of the Andalusian Navy was never buried with Granada's fallen walls. The forgotten fleet of Andalusia taught the Islamic world a lesson unwritten in grand history. True strategic defense begins not on land borders, but deep within the encircling abyss. The Andalusian fleet at its zenith represented an advanced model of composite naval power, capable of offense, defense, deterrence, diplomacy, and global trade within a single unified force. Modern naval war colleges studying Mediterranean history find the Andalusian experience a rare template, how a maritime power maintains strategic functionality over an immense span of 8 centuries. The Andalusian naval decline was not sudden, but the accumulation of gradual decisions to abandon the sea for terrestrial fortifications, a strategic error history proved to be absolutely fatal. The enduring lesson this forgotten fleet offers any nation seeking sovereignty. Maritime supremacy is not one choice among many, but the absolute condition for free existence in this world. 8 centuries of Andalusian endurance were not the achievement of land knights alone. They were the fruit of a silent partnership between the terrestrial sword and the maritime oar. Today, looking south from Algeciras toward the Moroccan coast, one feels a rooted aquatic memory between the shores, a memory of ships, men, and dreams that never fully ended. The forgotten fleet of Andalusia, the silent guardian of the Islamic West for 8 centuries, deserves its name inscribed in gold upon the first page of Islamic maritime history books. Forgetting it is not merely academic neglect, but a crime against collective memory. A nation must know its origins to understand its destination and rebuild upon conscious awareness.